new company, learning the process. And believe me, this gig is a lot less stressful than the previous one, but it's still, 3 weeks not knowing when I'm going home.
Sure.
It started catching up to me. And people say, well, you're Mr. RU, you're the guy, you're supposed to be. No, 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 no. I
I'm human
fight it every
too.
day just like you do.
Right.
I fight it just like you do. So I ask myself, how do I stop this? How do I change course? Well, right now the course is the old course. I got to get on a new course. How do I change my attitude? How do I change how I feel? How do I change how I talk to Christian when he comes to the safety meeting? How do I change that? Well, I got to apply some principles. I've got to make some changes. I love that saying that I heard a long time ago. If you want to make some changes in your life, you got to make some changes in your life.
Right.
And it's all part of being new.
Ladies
Yeah.
and gentlemen, I want to do this. I want to go. This is the book that we're talking about. This is the book that we're talking about. It is. I have skimmed through it. I only got it a couple of days ago, and let me show you this wonderful thing that I have here. I want to actually put on the screen and show to the people that this is the book. Are You New? It's available at Barnes and Noble and on Amazon. So please don't deny yourself. And I'm sure that after listening to Mike speak, you're going to want to run out and grab a copy. So could you explain a little bit to us how the book came about? What were the series of events that led to you to want to write the book, and where did the material come from?
Well, early on, I was blessed to work for a gentleman, and he was extremely beneficial in my transformation in the oil and gas industry. He brought an old fashioned way of looking at things, which I really thought he was really old fashioned. And then one day he did ask that question, are you new to the oil field? And I was like, wow, that's pretty deep. But I knew everybody in the crowd, nobody was going any further than that. But my mind was working. So I had that in the back of my mind. And I've had some events in my life that through different methods, but always coming back to reminding myself, you know what, I need to take a new approach. I need to look at something differently. I need to approach this thing differently. I need to do something new because what has worked in the past has not worked out exactly how I wanted it. I
Hmm.
want a different outcome, but if I continue doing the same thing, I'm going to get the same outcome. I need to be new. Well, over that course of time, I realized that I had a passion for writing, that I wanted to put things on paper, which I did, but I never published anything. I don't know if I referred to my medical event before we started actually recording, but I'll repeat it regardless. I had a bacteria in my stomach, not to go into medical details because believe me, I'm not a doctor, but I had a bacteria in my stomach that was eating a hole in my stomach and I thought I was having a heart attack. My wife called 911. They got there, blood pressure 220 over 120 and climbing. They doped me up, put me in an ambulance, put me in on my driveway going out. I looked out of the window and I saw my house, I saw my wife, I saw my daughter, I saw my entire life sitting there. And the thing that crossed my mind, that's it. I'll never see any of this ever again. It's a sobering moment. So I wake up in the hospital. Mr. Broussard, you're not having a heart attack. You're not having a stroke. We don't know what's going on, but one thing we do know: you had a anxiety attack, and it turned into a panic attack, and you almost killed yourself. And I'm going, no way. I'm Mr. In Control. I am the man. I'm super strong. I'm an alpha. And 5 minutes later, after everybody walked out of the room and go, I'll be damned.
Hmm.
You had a panic attack. How do we stop this? because this can be an ongoing thing. And I started remembering those principles of being new. So it really seeded in there. But over the course of time, before and after, I had people come to me and say, Mike, I'm having problems with this. Do you have any advice? And I started telling them about being new, and it's helped them. One in particular was an individual that had PTSD. His marriage was about to end. He was losing his daughter. He came in to do an inspection. It was going to last 30 minutes. We sat down and talked for 8 hours. He went home. He applied this. A week later, he calls me up and says, oh my God, Mike. He says, you saved my marriage. I said, no, I didn't save your marriage. You saved your marriage. And he said, me and my daughter were getting along great. Thank you. I said, no, you need to understand. We all have a message for each other. We can all bring benefit to one another. I saw an opportunity to share this with you. He says, well, why don't you share that with everybody else out there? He says, didn't you say you write? I said, I do. Why don't you publish it? And it hit me like a ton of bricks. It's like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and put it on paper. And a month and a half later, I was done with it.
A month and a half.
A month and a half. The entire book was written. Yeah, it was written because I had been living those principles.
Principles, right?
I've been talking about those principles. I've been trying to help people with these principles. It helps anxiety, PTSD, marriage problems, relationship problems, problems at work. I mean, using this approach will benefit you in so many different ways, but you have to apply them. You have to start to absorb them. It will not happen overnight. Believe me, it takes a while. Some people say that, well, Mike, you talk about triggers. Where do I get these triggers? Those triggers are yours. External triggers. It may be a rock or something or a piece of jewelry that your grandparents gave you, or it may be some significant item that you can grab that reminds you, or it's a sticky note on a window that says, Christian, are you new? You have it in your car where the biggest source of your anxiety. You have something on there that says, be new today. Or at work, wherever it's at. Those triggers to get you back on track, get you out of that habit, that rut that you've been in for so long. We do it at work. And you and I both know that rut is tremendous in our industry.
Very much.
It's tremendous. We stay in that rut constantly. And we step over $1 to pick up a penny,
Right.
Yeah, the attitude, it has to change. Well, it hasn't been changing on the location. So if you promote this to your people and say, hey, bring this home, you, your wife, your kids, y'all read this, apply these principles, then they show back up on location. They're a different person. They're more receptive. You're changing their culture.
But and then I'm with you 10,000%. But the two things that are difficult about that is that, one, you have to convince that person that you truly care. Because a lot of people say a lot of things, and like we discussed earlier, there's a lot of talk of culture, but what they really want is a change in behavior. They could care less what's happening under the sheets, so long as the sheet looks like it's made. And people have to believe that you care. And I don't think that's a problem that you have. And I'm very fortunate too, that when I speak with people, and I'm sure Mike, when you speak to people, they know that you care from the bottom of your heart. And that makes all the difference in the world. And I do agree with you too. It's a fine line as well, because how do you look at a man who's working 14 hours a day, 14 or 21 days in a row? He's the blender tender, say, and he's a kick-ass blender tender. No one can do it like him. He's on top of his job like no one else is. And how do you look at that man and say, you know what? You're not doing a good job with your life. You can't. So what I say is, I can't tell you you're doing a bad job, but what I can tell you is that you can certainly do a better job. And
Exactly.
part of that, Mike, is taking that personal energy that you have. And what I frequently say, I've said many times on air, that what we all are, either very well or very badly, is we are in the business of energy arbitrage. And it's not even jokingly in the business that we're in, but as you had mentioned earlier, I take your energy, I mix it with my energy, and then I'm able to give something new to somebody else. And it's the constant transformation of energy back and forth. And I think that's really the job that communicators such as yourself, that's really the business that you're in. And what you're trying to do is help people at the base level sort of change their change their internal idle speed, because some people's idle speeds are really high and some people's are really low. I have found over time that if you find someone whose idle speed is really high, it's easy to slow them down. But someone whose idle speed is really low, you can't really get them to speed up. But it doesn't mean that
Right.
everyone can't learn from these principles. Um, why do they call you Frack Gator?
Well, years back, when I made my way out to the West Texas area, being from South Louisiana, the question came out, have you, have, do you hunt alligators? Are there alligators in your yard? Do y'all have alligators for pets? And over and over and over. And I show them videos of my youngest daughter with her pet alligators, a 5 footer and a 6 footer, and she's out there petting them and feeding them and everything. I said, "Is that evident enough for you?" And then all of a sudden, I started hearing, "Well, that's Gator." Well, I have a friend of mine that his email address is frack animal, and it hit me. Wait a minute, they call me Gator. So I'm going to go ahead and have an email address that says, my business email address, personal business, Frack Gator, and that came about. I'll get on location and they'll have people that'll show up. Like, the company I'm working for, I've been with them now for a month and a half. People have showed up that's worked for me in the past, and first thing they say, "Hey, Gator." So it stuck.
That's wonderful. Yes,
But no,
and I
it's
yeah. I'm sorry. No, I just ran into some people
no.
that know you,
I was
and that's
saying
what they
it.
said. That's what they said. They're like, "Oh, that's Gator." I'm like, "Gator? I did." So, your reputation precedes you. Your reputation definitely precedes you. Um, can you can you talk a little bit about some of the difficult? Oh, let me ask you this first. Were you in the military?
No, I was not. Not the truest sense of the form.
Hmm.
I decided one day that I was going to try and get out of the oil and gas industry. And I saw an opportunity to get involved with law enforcement. And I did regular patrol for a brief period of time and then wound up in a street level narcotics unit type of deal. So all of the people that I worked with were all ex-military. It was very military driven, chain of command, rules of engagement, everything was all set in place. My father and my uncles and my grandfather, all veterans. So I've been surrounded by it, but no, I have not been in the military. I do look at our police officers today as a part of our military because they are keeping us protected here domestically, whereas our military is keeping us protected internationally. So I look at both as the same.
Right.
There's a lot of people that do carry a badge and that are put in extremely bad situations that a lot of people in the military may not have been exposed to. So there's life threatening situations on the street that are similar to what's going on overseas.
No, absolutely.
But no,
No, okay. And I ask because again that you have a certain bearing, and I think that it comes with your LEO experience. But I also believe that you're an upright individual. You carry yourself upright. You're very self-aware, and you're very proud, and you command respect. And I think that that's just something that just comes out in your being. I know that's how I felt when I met you at the safety meeting. I said, this is a man who just straight up commands respect. I said, there's no surprise about that. And so I wanted to ask you, also because so many of our fellow brothers and sisters in the oil field have been in the military, and I just always want to give respect to that. I want to thank you for that, as for your law enforcement service as well, because that's something that a lot of people would shy away from, if given a chance. Talk to me a little bit about talk to me a little bit more about your book, and what would be some of the first principles that someone should try to take on board if I'm working a 14-day shift, a 14-day hitch. um, my dick's in the dirt. I'm tired as all get out. I feel like I'm being put upon all the time. It's nighttime. It's raining. It's cold. I've got problems at home. My wife's not happy. My kid's not doing great in school, and I have to clean my garage. And I know I'm going to hear about it when I get home because my wife is texting me all the time with complaints. What would you say to that? What would you say to that man? What would be some of the first steps or some of the first principles of Are You New?
Well, first thing I would ask him, is this the first time that has happened? And 99% chance he'll go, no, it's a common thing. Let's see. So has the outcome been pretty much the same every single time? Yeah. And that outcome and that way you're approaching has gotten you to the way you feel right now. You're basing this all off of what has happened and you cannot change it. You're assuming that everything will be exactly the same when you get back home. And if you continue down that path, guess what? That's exactly what is going to be waiting for you when you get home. The only thing that you're going to be able to change immediately is how you approach it, how you walk into that situation. So if you want to change what's going on in your life, the way you look at things. You've worked 12 hours. It's been raining. It's been just one thing after another. The maintenance has been ridiculous. You're having all kind of problems, and then you have everything happening at home. And then you go ahead and say, you know what? This is how I'm supposed to react because the last time this happened, that's how I reacted. And that's not working for you because you're absolutely miserable right now. You're basing everything on the old you. Now it's time to become a new you. This is not easy, but you have to have a different approach. Okay, break it down into small parts. Right now, it's what's in front of you. You've been up for 12 hours. Yeah, you're tired. Absolutely. And the only thing you can think of when you're only thinking of being tired is knocking off, right? Yes. Okay. Has that worked for you? I mean, has it changed anything? No. Is that something out of your control? Yeah, pretty much. Okay. What is the only thing that you can control at this point? You're still tired. Can't change that. You're going to work 12 hours. You can't change that. You can't change the fact that you're going to leave and you're going to go to bed and you're going to get a bite to eat and you're going to have to do this crap again and you're going to be tired again. What's the only thing that you can change? Your attitude, how you're looking at this. It's a small beginning. It takes little bites. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You change that attitude just a little bit. How do you do that? Whatever method you need. I'm offering an alternative here, but I'm not saying that that is the only alternative. You can approach things and say, hey, Joe, Larry, Curly, Mo, are you new? You're asking yourself, am I new? Am I going to think about this new? Okay, well, what about my boss? I hate my boss. My boss is always on me. Do you react the same way every single time? Yes. Do you say the same things every single time? Yes. Do you approach the problem that he's always coming down on you the same way every time? Yes. What is the only thing you can change? Your attitude. Change your attitude about this. Wait a minute. I've been doing it like this for 20 years. I'm good at it, but it's not good enough for him. Maybe you need to change your energy. Maybe you need to change your thought process. Instead of the reaction that you give him when he calls you and starts eating on your ass about this, maybe put a smile on your face because he can feel a smile on your face and say, you know what? I understand what you're saying and I really appreciate what you're telling me and I'm going to try to do that. Now you've changed. Oh, it's new. Oh, guess what? You're being new. Oh, your wife. It snowballs. It just goes on
Right.
and on and on. At the end of the day, it's all comes down to attitude.
Mm-hmm.
You look at a person and say, oh, she is so dynamic. She is an alpha. She accomplishes so many things. What is her biggest attribute? What is her most valuable weapon? Attitude. Do you think that if she continues doing the same things every day over and over and over and base everything on what happened in a changing world based on everything that happened yesterday is how the outcome will be here, she'll begin losing the dynamics of who she is. She has to be new every single day. You got to approach every day as it's a new day. There's nothing I can do to change it. So you're having problems at home. You're on location. You're just at your breaking point. You're about to explode. Stop for just a second. Take a deep breath. All right, I'm going to try this "Are you new" crap. I'm going to ask myself, I'm an old field hand. I don't believe in this hokey bullshit.
Right.
Mike, are you new? I don't believe it. Ask yourself again. Keep
Right.
asking. Keep asking. Eventually, you're going to do something different than you've done before, and you're going to realize, okay, what was that you did? Was it something new? Those three letters are going to kick in, and okay, I had a new approach to doing things. Uh, do I get tired? I'll say this is my last hitch. I was starting to get burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there close to 3 weeks. New company, learning the process, and believe me, this gig is a lot less stressful than the previous one. But it's still, 3 weeks not knowing when I'm going home.
Sure.
It started catching up to me, and people say, "Well, you're Mister Are You New? You're the guy. You're supposed to be." No, 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 no. I
I'm
fight
human
it every
too.
day, just like you do.
Right.
I fight it just like you do. So I ask myself, how do I stop this? How do I change course? Well, right now the course is the old course. I got to get on a new course. How do I change my attitude? How do I change how I feel? How do I change how I talk to Christian when he comes to the safety meeting? How do I change that? Well, I got to apply some principles. I've got to make some changes. I love that saying that I heard a long time ago. If you want to make some changes in your life, you got to make some changes in your life.
Right.
And it's all part of being new.
Right. So many people though, and again, especially, and God, you know how much I love my oilfield brothers and sisters, but man, a bunch of thicker heads you will never find for the most part, right? If you get them by the spoonful, it's like, oh my goodness, dude, really? It's amazing you made it this far. I'm going to be honest with you, right? To some guys.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that, especially when there's a lot of decisions or issues, I always tell guys to break it down into a decision tree, because a decision tree does not get emotional. It's a piece of paper. I do this, then I get this, or I choose to do this, and then I get that. Um, and it can be as simple as that. It really it can be, to remove emotion from it, because a lot of us get very wrapped up in our identities, and a lot of people forget that we are not what we do. Those are two completely different animals. But a lot of people get very wrapped up in the identity of, I'm an oil field guy, so I'm an alpha. So I'm going to come home and I'm going to tell everybody what it's going to be like. And it's like, no, dude, slow the hell down. You're a partner to your spouse. You're a father to your kids. You can't run roughshod over them. Like there's some green hat. Even in my life, as we had referenced just prior to coming on air, even what's neutral talk in the oil field, just neutral. I come home and I speak like that. My wife thinks I'm being aggressive. And I'm not being aggressive. I'm speaking very neutral, but I'm speaking oil field neutral, which which is like 10 levels of aggression higher than a normal
Right.
person's conversation. And so it takes a guy, well, it takes a person to realize that they need a change, or they will never change. I was smoking cigarettes for years and years, and I would pay a lot of lip service to the fact that I needed to stop smoking. knowing that I had to. But it wasn't until I was ready was I able to kind of lay it down. I mean, I'll still smoke 1 or 2 cigarettes, but it is not to the degree that it used to be. And I think a lot of people have a hard time believing that they really can make those choices. Because why would so many people have difficulty, Mike, in stopping and saying, am I new? Is this the right way of going about it? So many people just charge straight ahead like a bull in a china shop without ever stopping to consider that they can change their approach. And I think that's why you're so valuable, because you provide that voice in the field that would allow someone to say, you know what, if he can do it, I can do it. And if I can talk to him and get around him, maybe that'll help me. You can't help everybody, but you can help the ones that are ready. It's sort of like they used to say about the Sunday New York Times. I mean, way back in the day, the Sunday New York Times was like that thick, right? No one expected you to read it all, but whatever you wanted to get out of it, there it was for you to get out of it.
Right.
And I think that that's a very important principle. Again, as a leader, Mike, you don't have a choice. You have to keep being that person because people are depending on you to be that person, whether you know it or not. How do you feel about that every day when you know that people are going to come to you with problems?
Oh, I relish the opportunity, and I look at it as an opportunity. I have an opportunity not only to help somebody that has a situation, but I also look at it as an opportunity to learn from their situation on how to enhance my own personal life, on how to handle uh, this same problem that may happen to me down the road. Now you've blessed me by giving me your story, your experience, and I'm able to go ahead and capitalize on that. If you give me an opportunity to give you what I feel is good advice, it may not be in your mind good advice. They may just want to vent. It goes back to that old story, and you probably have heard this story where a traveling salesman came to an old farmer's house, and him and his dog, his old blue tick hound, were on the porch, and he was in his rocking chair, and the old blue tick hound was sitting there, and he started to ask, he had gone through his sales pitch, and the dog raises his head and goes, and puts his head back down. I mean, it just broke the salesman's heart, and he didn't say anything. Well, this happened 2 or 3 more times, and finally he looked at the farmer and he said, what's wrong with your dog? Because, man, yeah, something's wrong with him. He says, oh, he's laying on a nail. Said, well, why don't he get up? What? Said, well, it hurts enough for him to holler about it. It just don't hurt enough for him to get up and do something about it.
Yeah.
And
Very
you can
good.
give this book. You can give this book to people. You can give it to them. But unless that nail is hurting bad enough, they're probably not going to read it.
Mm.
But this is what I tell them. I said, you think your life is so good and that you can handle everything that you can. But do you have somebody in your life that's having problems? Give them this book. What you're going to do, and I'm not going to tell them this, what you're going to do is their life is going to change a little, maybe a lot. You're going to see it. Guess what? You're going to get energy off of that, and you're going to go, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I've seen some benefit here. Maybe let me kind of open this book and take a look at it. Let me talk to somebody that might kind of know a little bit about this. You know, I'm the man. I can do it. Yeah, here I am in a meat wagon going out of my driveway going, I'm the man that's about ready to kill himself because I'm having an anxiety attack and I can't identify it. It's sobering.
Huh.
It brings you down to earth. It's humbling. And then you start understanding there's other people out there that need help. They're not as strong as you. You think you're muy macho and you the guy and you're invincible? Well, we're not invincible. Believe me. I'm
Right.
living proof of not being invincible. But why don't you be a benefit to society and help somebody else? You don't need help. I understand. You the guy. You the guy. You don't need help. Help somebody else. You're on location. You have a brother, and this is your brother or sister that's on location. You spend more time with these people here than you do with your own family. You see them struggling. Go walk up to them, ask them, what's wrong? Hey, how can I help? Let's talk about it. If they say, well, I'm having this, this, and this, whether it be this book, another book, somebody else's program, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Help them. Because you know what? One day you may be in that situation where you're looking out of the back glass of an ambulance and you go, I need help.
Amazing. Amazing, Mike. Mike, as we draw to a conclusion here, what would you say to an aspiring leader, someone who may not have the position or the title, but they know they have greatness in them and they want to take a step up out of the shadows, so to speak, to take a leadership position? Again, maybe not officially, but what would you say to someone who wants to be a leader to others, and especially in the oil field, and if they want to move up, if they want to do better, if they want to shine their light? What's some advice you could give to someone like that?
Well, one is to understand what the position is. Understand what you have to know the position. You have to be looking at the next rung on the ladder. As soon as you put that hand on that rung, you need to be looking up at the next rung. You look up at the next rung. Understand that there's people that have gone through trials and tribulations to get to that next rung on the ladder. If you're fortunate enough to plug into somebody that can help you understand a little bit more what that position is, that's a huge benefit.
Mm-hmm.
You have experienced that position from different people, some negatively, some positively. You've seen what you didn't like as a leader at that position, and you saw what you liked by leaders at that position. Don't you want to focus on the positive, what you like, but you also need to put just as much energy at the stuff that you didn't like. You combine those two and apply it to your personality, because you're not going to be exactly as this one. You're not going to be exactly as this one. You have to be somewhere. You have to be yourself. You also have to be believable. You have to be likable to a certain extent. But people have to absorb your energy. So at the end of the day, you have to believe in what you're doing. You have to be passionate about it. Some people have a problem with giving the passion and feeling and transmitting the passion. And you don't have to be the super dynamic guy that comes out there and hollers and screams.
Right.
Give off that energy. Give off that, I believe in what I'm doing. I believe in you. I am interested in you. Instead of going out there, hey, I'm Mr. Company Man. I'm the guy. You listen to me. I tell you what to do, or you're gonna get run off. Well, that's much horse shit. Okay.
Yeah.
My dad told me a long time ago. He's retired oil field. He says, "Remember that ass you chewing on today is the same ass you might be kissing tomorrow."
Right.
He said, be very, very understanding. Treat these people like you want to be treated, because the shoe may be on the other foot. Oh yeah, I remember that company man. I can't wait to be a company man. I could do all of that. And I said, okay. Remember how you felt when he was talking down to you, cussing you, chewing you out, making you feel like dirt. Good feeling, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So you think that is the proper way to handle things, is to do the same thing to other people? You will have no effectiveness as a leader. Those guys are gone. There is no such thing as that anymore. And if they do show up on location, they won't be there for long.
No, not
It's
today.
counterproductive. So at the end of the day, you want to develop as a leader, understand where you're going,
Mm-hmm.
understand the features and the benefits of it, what you need to learn to get there. But the most important thing that's going to happen is having the right attitude. You have the right attitude, you're going to become absorbent. You're going to learn. You're becoming a sponge. You learn how to listen to people. You learn how to talk to people. And you start learning how to reduce your stress dealing with people. Now you can concentrate on what's going on down hole. You can concentrate on what's happening on surface. You're not having to worry about all these people because they believe in the things that you're telling them because they feel like you believe in them.
Believe them.
So you have to build that belief. How does that happen? I hate to go back to it. You got to be new every single day. You got to have a new approach. You've got to say, you know what? Today, I may have something happen extremely different than what happened yesterday. I cannot rely on what happened yesterday. I need to be prepared for something new today. How do I do that? I have to have a new approach. I need to be open to whatever is going to happen. So as a leader, when you come into that safety meeting, you look at it and say, hey, I just want to remind y'all have heard this before, but hey, is everybody out here new? Are you new to the oil field? Is your attitude right? Because I do the same thing. And that's where the people that are working for you, they understand. Wait a minute. He's telling us to do things that he's doing himself. He's not putting us on a higher level or putting us at a lower level and him at a higher level. I usually end my meetings, hey, do you have any questions, comments, or concerns? You have comments, bring them up. Questions, concerns. If you don't like an open atmosphere, hell, I like an open atmosphere, but it depends on what the subject matter is. If you want to come to the office and let's talk about it behind closed doors, that's great. But I'm here for you. As a leader, you have to be a servant. You cannot always be that individual that's, pounding on the old oil field with that sledgehammer on the hard hat. Get out the way, you're a bum. You have to be somebody that serves the people that are working for you. They respect you. Well, I thought I was a supervisor. Yeah, you are. You want to build a strong team? You want to have a safe location? You want to have the most productive crew of all the crews out there? Become a servant. How do you do that? You got to have a new approach every single day. Every day. Every day. Oh, look. Are you new?
Are you new? Are you new? I don't think that.
Yeah, I found out today.
Mm-hmm.
I found out today. I thought it was just on Amazon, but now it's on Barnes and Noble. It's on eBay. It's on all kind of platforms. And I've had several people, you even brought it up in our conversation earlier, asking about an audiobook. Mm-hmm. And I'm an extremely slow reader, which blows people's minds. Wait a minute, you write, but you read slow. I also write extremely slow. But I dictate. It's all audible. And then all of a sudden somebody asked me, have you done an audible version? And it's like, wait a minute. I write audibly. Why wouldn't I do an audible version?
Version, of course. And I think that would be absolutely helpful for our compatriots and our colleagues, because we actually do spend a lot of windshield time as well. And there's a lot of downtime. They're doing maintenance. If you're not working on something, someone can listen to your book. And I think that we're going to discuss that here in a moment off air. But Mike, I would like to ask, would you be willing to come back to the show so we can discuss your next project? We can discuss what's happening next, and we can maybe dig a little bit deeper into the RUNU principles. Is that cool with you?
I'd be more than happy to do that. One of the things that I want to do is the continuation of this book, but I'm also writing a fantasy thriller right now. I'm trying my hand at nonfiction.
Well, there you go. Well, I think now we absolutely have the subject for our next conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again. Please, Mike Broussard, and you're going to want to get RUNU. It's available on Amazon, available on Barnes & Noble. You can find it also on eBay. And of course, like anything, if you're looking for it, you're going to find it. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for this episode. Mike, thank you so much. And we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you, sir. Talk to you soon.
Have a wonderful new day.
Thank you.
The Oilfield Leader Podcast is brought to you by executive producer Daniel Corral, executive producer Jim Lynn, executive producer and voice talent, me, Mad Mac, production assistant Caleb Knott. The Oilfield Leader Podcast is produced and hosted by Christian Lombardini. Copyright 2023. The Oilfield Leader and Christian Lombardini, all rights reserved. Peace.